believe in ghosts or anything like that, but this happened to me, and it still creeps me out to this day. I was into urban exploring. You know, checking out abandoned buildings, old factories, that kind of thing. I'd heard about this old church in the middle of nowhere, supposedly haunted. Being the skeptic that I am, I thought challenge accepted. It was this huge gothic thing, all stone and gargoyles. Looked like something out of a horror movie. Inside was even creepier. Dust everywhere, then stained glass windows cracked and boarded up. The air was thick and still. I had a flashlight, but it felt like it barely cut through the darkness. As I wandered around, I started to feel this weird energy, like something was watching me. I was about to chalk it up to my imagination when I heard it. It was a wail, a mournful, haunting wail that echoed through the church. It was like nothing I'd ever heard before. My heart was pounding, and my hands were shaking. I tried to convince myself it was just the wind or something, but it was too real. Then I saw her, a figure standing at the end of the aisle. She was translucent, almost like she was made of mist. Long flowing white dress, and her hair was down, covering her face, but I could see her eyes. Empty black holes, and that wail. It was coming from her. I froze, couldn't move, and couldn't speak. All I could do was stare at her. She took a step forward, and I swear, I felt the temperature drop. I turned and ran. I didn't stop until I was out of there, heart pounding in my chest. I never went back to that church, and I've never told anyone this story until now. I still don't know what to make of it. Was it a hallucination? A trick of the light? Or something more sinister? I don't know, but I'll never forget it. The worst part is, I can still hear that wail sometimes. It's like it's echoing in my head, and there are nights when I swear I can feel her presence, cold and heavy. I've tried to move on, to forget about it, but it's like a part of me is still trapped in that church. It's been years now, and I still have trouble sleeping. Nightmares, you know. I'll wake up drenched in sweat, heart racing, convinced she's still standing over me. I tried therapy, medication, everything. Nothing seems to work. I've even tried to go back to the church, hoping to confront my fear or something, but I can't bring myself to do it. It's like there's an invisible force keeping me away, and the more time passes, the more I wonder if I'll ever be free from this. It's a heavy burden to carry, you know? To live with the constant fear of something you can't explain. Sometimes, I wish I could just forget about it all, but I know I never will. I was driving through Mississippi late one night. You know how those country roads get, pitch black, and you can see for miles. I was heading to visit family, and I'd gotten a late start. It was around 2 in the morning, and I was starting to get tired. Then suddenly, I saw something on the side of the road. At first I thought it was a deer or something, but as I got closer, I realized it was a woman. She was dressed in old-fashioned clothes, like something out of a Victorian novel. White dress, long dark hair. What really freaked me out was that she was crying. I slammed on the brakes, my heart pounding. The woman didn't move. She just stood there sobbing, her face turned towards me. I rolled down the window, trying to figure out what was going on. "Are you okay?" I yelled, my voice trembling. No response, just that endless crying. The wind was howling through the trees. I wanted to help her, but I was terrified. I was alone on this deserted road, in the middle of nowhere, with a ghost, or whatever it was. I sat there for a few minutes, not knowing what to do. Then finally I gathered my courage and got out of the car. I approached her slowly, my hands shaking. As I got closer, I realized she was more transparent than I thought. It was like looking through a fog. I reached out to touch her shoulder, but my hand pressed right through her. She looked at me, her eyes filled with sadness and despair. It was like she was pleading for help. Then, as quickly as she appeared, she was gone. Just like that, I stood there for a long time, trying to process what I had just seen. I got back in my car and drove away as fast as I could. I didn't stop until I reached the gas station, where I bought a bunch of coffee and tried to calm down. I've told this story to a few people, but most of them just think I'm crazy. I don't blame them. It's hard to believe, even for me, but I know what I saw, and it's something I'll never forget. I was on a solo trip through Europe, and I ended up in this charming little town in the heart of France. The hotel was an old stone building with a creaky elevator that looked like it belonged in a museum. I'd heard the stories, of course. The old world charm, the creaky floors, the possibility of the supernatural. But I'm not the type to believe in ghosts. I'm more of a practical person. It was late, and I was tired after a long day of exploring. I got on the elevator to head up to my room, and as the doors closed, I noticed a woman standing in the corner. She was dressed in old-fashioned clothes, with a white apron, and a stern look on her face. At first I thought she was a guest, maybe someone who was really into historical reenactments or something. As the elevator started to move, I tried to make small talk. "Lovely evening, isn't it?" I said, hoping to break the ice, but she didn't respond. Just stood there, staring straight ahead. I started to feel a little uneasy. Maybe she was one of those people who didn't like to talk to strangers. The elevator stopped at my floor, and I stepped out, turning to say goodbye. But when I looked back, she was gone. I thought maybe she'd stepped out just before the doors closed, but then it hit me. There was no other floor between the ground floor and mine. I went back to my room, feeling a chill run down my spine. I tried to explain it away. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I'd seen a reflection or something. But the image of that woman standing there in the elevator wouldn't leave my mind. The next morning, I decided to ask the front desk about the woman. Maybe she was a new employee or something. The receptionist looked at me like I was crazy. "There's no one working the elevator," she said. "It's automatic." Then she hesitated, as if considering something. "Actually, there's a story about an old woman who used to work here, back in the 1800s. They say she still haunts the building." My blood ran cold. It was the same woman I'd seen in the elevator. I spent the rest of my stay in that hotel terrified. Every time I got in the elevator, I expected to see her again. And every night, I had the same dream. The elevator doors closing, and there she was, standing in the corner, watching me. I know it sounds crazy, but I swear it's true. So this happened a few years back. Me and my buddy Jake were always into the weird stuff. Cryptozoology, aliens, you name it. We'd heard rumors about this old abandoned cabin deep in the woods near our town. Supposedly strange things happened there. We were young and dumb, so naturally, we had to check it out. We decided to go late at night. For the added thrill, armed with flashlights and a camera, we ventured into the woods. The deeper we went, the creepier it got. The trees were thick, the air was still, and it was pitch black except for the beams of our flashlights. We finally found the cabin. It was an old wooden structure, with broken windows and a sagging roof. We crept inside, the floorboards creaking ominously beneath our feet. There was something unsettling about this place, a heavy, oppressive atmosphere. We started exploring, our flashlights cutting through the darkness. We found old, dusty furniture and a fireplace with remnants of ashes. As we moved deeper into the cabin, we found a hidden door. Curiosity got the better of us, and we pushed it open. What we found inside was something out of a nightmare. A large circular room with strange symbols etched into the floor. In the center, a pentagram was glowing with an eerie blue light, and there, standing in a circle around the pentagram, were a group of people dressed in long black robes. Their faces were hidden in shadow, but their eyes glowed with unnatural intensity. They were chanting something in a language I didn't recognize, their voices echoing through the room. And then, I saw it. In the center of the pentagram, there was a body. It was still, covered in a white cloth. Terror seized me. I grabbed Jake's arm and pulled him back. We stumbled out of our room, our hearts pounding. We ran out of the cabin and into the woods, not stopping until we were far away. We never talked about what we saw that night. The fear was too overwhelming. It's been years, and I still have nightmares about it. I don't know what those people were doing, or what they were trying to achieve. Whatever it was pure evil. The days following that night were a blur. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I kept seeing these glowing eyes and hearing those eerie chants. Jake was just as shaken as I was. We tried to convince ourselves it was a hallucination, a trick of the light, but deep down, we both knew it was real. We started noticing strange things happening. Objects would move on their own. Shadows would dance across the walls. We'd hear whispers in the night, like someone was watching us. Fear consumed us. We were convinced they were after us. We decided to move. We packed our bags and left town, hoping to escape whatever evil we stumbled upon. But it wasn't that easy. The fear followed us. We moved from place to place, always looking over our shoulders, always expecting the worst. Years have passed since that night in the woods, and while the intensity of the fear had lessened, it's never truly gone away. The memory of what we saw is a constant companion, a dark shadow that lingers in the corner of my mind. I often wonder about those people, those cultists. What kind of power were they seeking? What did they hope to achieve with their rituals? And most importantly, are they still out there, somewhere, waiting for their next victim? The truth is, I don't know the answers to any of these questions, and maybe it's better that way. Some things are best left unknown. So as we crept through the cabin, the air grew heavier, the silence more oppressive. Then we heard it, a low guttural chanting. It was coming from downstairs. We exchanged a terrified look and slowly made our way to the back door. The moment we cracked it open, a wave of cold air hit us, and the sound of the chanting grew louder, peeking out. Our eyes widened in horror. In the clearing behind the cabin, a bonfire was raging. Around it, a circle of people were dressed in identical black robes. They were moving in a hypnotic rhythm, their voices rising and falling in that eerie chant. And then we saw it. In the center of the circle, a pentagram was etched into the ground, and on top of it was a strange dark object. It looked like a statue, but it was pulsating with a sinister otherworldly energy. As we watched, the chanting grew louder, more frenzied. The flames of the bonfire seemed to dance in an unnatural rhythm. Fear gripped us. We knew we had to get out of there. But as we turned to go back inside, we saw a figure emerge from the shadows. It was tall and gaunt, with glowing red eyes. It moved towards us, with a speed that defied human possibility. We slammed the door shut, our hearts pounding in our chests, but we knew it was only a matter of time before they found us. Panic set in. We scrambled to find a way out, our minds racing. The only other exit was through the front door, right into the clutches of those cultists. Desperation fueled our actions. We barricaded the back door with whatever we could find. Chairs, tables. Our breathing was ragged, our bodies trembling. We could hear them approaching, their footsteps heavy and determined. The door shook violently, and we braced ourselves, or the inevitable. With a deafening crash, the door splintered, and a figure burst through. It was one of the cultists, their face contorted in rage. They lunged at us, and we barely managed to dodge their grasp. A chaotic struggle ensued. We fought like animals, driven by pure terror. Jake managed to grab a broken piece of wood, and I used a fireplace poker. We fought desperately, trying to hold them off long enough to escape. More cultists poured into the cabin, their numbers overwhelming us. We were cornered, our backs against the wall. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, we saw an opportunity. A window was shattered, and the moonlight illuminated the dense woods beyond. With a final desperate effort, we broke free from our attackers and darted the window. We tumbled out into the night, our bodies aching and our lungs burning. We could hear the cultists behind us, their howls echoing through the woods. We ran blindly. Our goal was to put as much distance behind us in that horrifying place. Branches whipped at our faces, and our feet stumbled over rock, but we kept running. Fueled by adrenaline and terror, we collapsed on the forest floor. We lay there panting, listening to the silence of the night. In the distance, we could hear the faint sound of voices, growing fainter as they moved away. We had escaped, but at what cost? The horrors of that night were etched into our minds, a wound that will never fully heal. We never returned to that place, and we never spoke about it again. The memory of that night was a shadow that followed us, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurks in the world. I often wonder about those people, those cultists. What kind of power were they seeking? What did they hope to achieve with their rituals? And most importantly, are they still out there somewhere, waiting for their next victim? The truth is, I don't know the answers to any of these questions, and maybe it's better that way. Okay, I was in this old ryokan in the countryside, one of those traditional Japanese inns with tatami mats and paper sliding doors. Beautiful place, really, but there was this weird unsettling energy about it. The ryokan was supposed to be haunted, or so the locals said. There was something about a woman who died there a long time ago, a tragic love story or something. I didn't really believe in ghosts, but the atmosphere was definitely creepy. It started with small things. There were strange noises at night, like footsteps and whimpers. I'd wake up with the feeling of being watched, but I blamed it on jet lag and an overactive imagination. Then one night, I was alone in my room. It was late, and I was about to sleep. Suddenly I heard a soft, mournful sound. It was like a woman sobbing. I sat up in bed, with my heart pounding. The sound seemed to be coming from the bathroom. Bracing myself, I turned on the light and slowly opened the door. The bathroom was empty, but as I stepped inside, I felt a cold draft, like an icy breath. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end, and then I saw it. There was a translucent figure standing by the sink. It was a woman dressed in kimono, her long black hair covering her face. She was crying. I froze, unable to move or speak. The figure turned and looked at me. Her eyes were empty, black holes in her face. That's when I screamed and stumbled backward, crashing into the door. When I regained my senses, the figure was gone. I spent the rest of the night huddled in bed, terrified. The next morning, I checked out of the ryokan and never looked back. I've never told anyone about this before because it's simply too scary, too surreal. But it happened, and I'll never forget it. The days after that, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Nightmares plagued me, filled with the image of that ghostly woman. I started to see shadows out of the corner of my eye, and I'd hear whispers in the wind that sounded like her name. I tried to distract myself, to immerse myself in work and social activities, but nothing seemed to help. The fear was consuming me, and I felt like I was going crazy. One night while alone in my apartment, I heard a soft knock at the door. My heart pounded. I hesitated before answering, but curiosity got the better of me. I opened the door, expecting to find no one there, but there she was, standing in the hallway, the same woman from the ryokan inn. Her translucent form shivering in the dim lights. Terror overwhelmed me. I slammed the door shut and leaned against it, trembling. I could hear her scratching at the door, her mournful sobs echoing through the apartment. I don't know how long I stood there, but eventually the scratching stopped. And then silence. I cautiously opened the door, but she was gone. From that day on, the hauntings intensified. I started seeing hints of her everywhere. Not her physical presence, but just weird feelings that she was around. I sought help from a therapist, but they couldn't explain what was happening to me. It was as if I was trapped in a nightmare with no escape. I don't know if I'll ever fully recover from that experience. I've learned to live with it, to find ways to cope, but it's a battle I fight with every day. The woman from the ryokan, she's become a part of me, a haunting presence that I can't shake. And sometimes, in the quiet of the night, I wonder if she'll ever truly leave me alone.
His name is Phantom and he wants to remind you to subscribe with a bribe and listen to his rhymes. So tell your stories for hours, give you the power to hear his tales of the ghosts and the glories. Listen for the vocals on the internet and YouTube, cause we don't need to take a political stance. We're not sticking around and fighting for this dance. We just wanna take our minds off the precious news and listen to the news and drift away to sleep while we chill to some tunes. So if you're feeling what I'm saying, connect with the views. And you creepy crawlies are dealing with the ghosts. You creepy crawlies just don't understand our roast. And I'm not talking about the people subscribers. I gotta be the one to give you reminders that you gotta let me entertain you now. This is just the beginning. This is never gonna change. We are strong, we are mighty. We will never hit the wall. Hell yeah. So I say to you, grab my notifications and carry on. Cause baby, there's nothing we can't read. If you're uploading it with me, hell yeah. We got this, we really, really do. Yes, take care, grab your faithful man and carry on. Cause Gymnasium Jones hit them with the solo. Phantom, ooh, yeah, you're great, oh so great. We stand together tall and proud. Hell yeah, yeah. Phantom, we are scary stories proud. We can listen to you and drift off to sleep, ooh yeah. Nothing can stop us right now. We need a distraction somehow. So Phantom of Darkness, read some stories for now. Phantom, ooh yeah, you're great, oh so great. We stand together tall and proud. Hell yeah. Phantom, we are scary stories proud. We can listen to you and drift off to sleep, ooh yeah. Nothing can stop us right now. We need a distraction somehow. So Phantom of Darkness, read some stories for now.